those stories, man, because we'd be here for 3 days. Or me telling you about the things that drove me nuts, from me giving these guys history reports, not wanting to do it, when I gave them Eddie Guerrero's book and asked them to read Eddie's life story, and I'd come back and, ask them, hey, write me a paragraph about what you got out of Eddie's book. That was all my stuff. I don't know if you guys, I used to give people, when I hired you, WWF hired you, I should say, we used to give you an assignment. There was 100 names on this list, and you should learn a little about each one of these names and why they were important to the industry. I felt you should have a sense of history of the business, yeah. And these jerk-offs would cut and paste and copy each other's stuff and not even care about it. I came down and gave him Eddie's book. Eddie was my friend, and I thought you should learn from Eddie, so I gave them his audit. I'm actually having to beg these people to read Eddie Guerrero's book. So they read Eddie's book, and I come down and make them write a paragraph about what they learned. This one nitwit, this girl who's on Raw right now, she's an idiot, but she wrote in her paragraph, I'll never forget it, she wrote, I learned that Eddie Guerrero was a really good wrestler, and he was part of the Guerrero family. What else? I learned he was a really good wrestler, and he was part of the Guerrero family. He died very young. That was what she learned from Eddie Guerrero. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I found out she didn't read the book. I remember when the Four Horsemen DVD game came out, I was all geeked up about it, all psyched, and I go down to OVW, I think it was OVW, and I'm like, hey, man, how many people here went out and picked up the new Four Horsemen DVD? It's fantastic. I think 3 people raised their hand out of 30-something. I'm like, oh, are you guys nuts? Dr. Death went down one time, and he brought down his book. And
that's big.
He gave them the book, and Doc is a great guy. I love Doc. I used to help Doc down and get him booked in OVW and in Deep South, and I would handle all Doc's travel, his car, his hotel, getting him paid, everything. And it was a true honor for me to do that, because I never lost sight that, look, Mamma Jammer, this is Dr. effing Death. This isn't some scrub who wrestled in Arkansas and taught himself how to bump. This is the man. So respect him. These guys didn't. He went down there and gave them all the copies of the book, and he told them, I'll be back in 30 days. I'm going to give you a test. So wouldn't you, if you were sitting down there saying to yourself, look, I'm going to become an expert on this man. Because instead of me sitting here bitching about never getting pulled out of developmental, let me try to help my own cause. And believe me, those little things add up. Because I would have said, hey, maybe, I'll do really good in the test and Nova will hear about it and, put a good word in for him. Or just something like that. I think out of 35 people that took the test, I think Aaron Stevens passed the test. Birchall passed the test. Chet Jablonski, 2 or 3 other guys who I actually happened to be friendly with and liked them outside of wrestling. And, lo and behold, I'm like, you know what? I guess I put my faith in the right people because they didn't let me down. And then all these other jerk-offs who were constantly crying about not getting called up and not getting a shot, blah blah blah. They failed miserably.
Oh my God.
It was so disgusting.
Yeah.
See, Dr. Death is such a scary guy. I wouldn't want to fail a test that he gives me.
And he was heartbroken by it. Let me tell you, this is a tough son of a bitch who's fighting. I wish him all the best in his fight with cancer, the whole bit. And I miss talking to Doc, but I'll tell you what, man, as tough as that guy is, I'm telling you this man to phone right now that dude was hurt inside when he saw a bunch of young trainees not even give a shit about his life story and disrespect him and fail his test. I'll never forget when I had to call him and apologize, because I called each one of the people that failed the test and healed the shit out of them and told them they were worthless, and I wanted to fire them right on the spot. But that wasn't my call. It's Sean's. I never fired anybody. That's a misconception, too. I had to call people and tell them they were fired, but I never fired anyone, and I never hired anybody. I could recommend. I recommended that we hire an undiscovered and unknown Kofi Kingston. So I got Kofi hired.
Yeah.
I got Santino Marella hired. I got, after pitching him for about 2 months and nobody wanted to hire him, I got Seidel hired, Matt Bourne, or whatever, Evan Bourne. Yep. So, I live on and I still hear from the guys, and they always text me a big match. Oh, thanks again for hiring me, the whole bit. I could be a Nattie Neidhart. I helped get hired.
She's incredible.
DiBiase Jr. TJ. I helped TJ get hired. But,
and you're talking about all the guys that anybody gets excited about right now, too.
Yeah, go figure.
Exactly.
But there's also a bunch of goofs who got hired, and they've come up, and they were in and out in, 6 months, and they're not even there anymore. So, whatever. But, that's a misconception. I never fired up. But there was actually, there was a couple guys who, of course, deserved to get fired. I thought they were lazy and they were the shit. there's only, like, I can think off the top of my head, maybe 2 people who I had to fire that I literally sat around staring at the wall for hours when I had to fire them because I didn't want to fire them.
Who's that? You don't want me asking.
Absolutely 100%. Inferno Kid, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Danny Inferno, Dan Germondo, had to get fired. He got a raw deal. He shouldn't have been fired. I didn't think he got enough of a chance to show what he can do. He was a part of my Jersey crew, which was a fantastic gimmick that we used to do in OVW. With me, Idol Stevens, and Trudy, and her, and Danny Inferno. I had to call Inferno and let him go. So I just decided I had nothing for him. And I remember sitting with Idol in a Penn Station sub saying, how the hell am I going to call this guy? I've known him for 12 years. I'm his boss. I got to fire. And he took it really well. He's like, I know it ain't you, Nova, but, man, that tore my soul out of my body to fire that guy. And number 2, and I still will say this to this day, I think it was a huge mistake for them to fire her, Angel Williams in TNA. I'll never forget when they sent,
so yeah.
Dude, they sent her to TV like 5 times to start her, and each time it fell through, and they didn't start her. And they were going to send her to TV, do some kind of like high school gimmick or something with Matt Stryker and Knox and Nykerk and all them, and it fell through, and she comes back, and she just moved to OVW literally, like a week before this, and it was like, hey, you got to fire her. I'm like, what are you talking about? She just moved. They're like, no, they got nothing for her. Oh, man. I had to call her, and she, was hysterical on the telephone. I felt so bad for her. She knows that. I think she's doing great, but there's no way on her she should have been fired. She had a lot to talk. She could talk. She was good. Nah, wow. I totally disagree with that. Absolutely should have been fired.
I don't know if you watch TNA, but she's the women's champion right now.
I'd be happier for her. She deserves it. I like Angel. Always did. Ever since the days of Scott and Warren. She kept saying to me on telephone, Nova, you're ribbing me. There's no way they're going to fire me, Nova. I just moved here. I kept saying I wish I was, But I saved it. I'm not going to get into who I saved, but I definitely saved 1 or 2 people's jobs. And I can, there's one guy who, he's on the main roster now. He knows that, he's one of my best friends, and we talk about it all the time. And I'm glad I did, because I know he would have been fired if I wasn't in that position. That's kind of cool.
Excellent.
But I don't know. There's just so many worthless, lazy people that I would just shake my head and say, you have no idea the opportunity. And they all want to, they all want to blame Ty Bailey. Like, Ty Bailey's the ghost of the machine. Now, he always gets his name dragged through the mud. Ty's a father. He's a businessman. He works hard at his job, and their argument is always, well, Ty Bailey never wrestled. He doesn't know anything about talent. And I say, well, he doesn't have to. He gives opportunity, and he hires you and sends you to Florida. If you fuck it up, that's on you. That's not on Ty. Ty's sitting in Connecticut, finding other people to replace you if you screw it up. So, why is it Ty's fault? I mean, if you wrestle and if you're on the independents or you have something you want to show, hey, man, they run those camps a couple times a year, so get off your ass and fly down there or send in your tapes, do what you got to do, and get yourself noticed. Mm-hmm. If you want it bad enough, you're going to be noticed.
Don't worry about that. We're pre-taping this, so it'll keep recording.
There's that goofy Adam Lambert kid who was just on American Idol who apparently has been trying to get in the music business for the last 10 years. Yep. Moved out to L.A., did everything he could do. He's been to American Idol auditions a couple times. They never took him. This guy kept going over it, and he finally got himself noticed. He got himself over.
Yeah.
So when I always scratch my head and say these people who are in the independents who, I can't get my shot or blah, blah, I say, man, you know what? If you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way. Trust me.
Exactly, and look at what happened to him now. Now, the Queen. Don't worry about that
They
again.
just hired that, one of the girls in WWE, I think she officially signed, this girl, Serena. And that girl, she moved down to OVW Unknown a couple years ago. She busted her ass. She waited tables. She worked hard. She changed her look. She got in shape. Her work is fantastic. And they finally hired her. And when I was so happy when they hired her, because I told her, look, they couldn't deny you any longer. Sooner or later, they're going to look past all the shit. And sooner or later, if you're good, they're going to give you a shot. If nothing else, they're going to say, look,
Yep.
This guy sucks. This guy sucks. Jesus, we got to get back. That's why I believe that eventually a guy like Claudio will have to go to the WWF.
He got a shot, didn't he?
He did. I was the one to hire him, bro.
Yeah,
and I still could not tell you to this day why they didn't hire him. I had to hire him and to fire him like a month later. I was never told why.
That's horrible.
Because I was watching Ring of Honor. I don't watch Ring of Honor much, but I was watching the show that he was on, and he was one of the few people that I thought really stood out, not just as a wrestler, but as a character, too.
Dude, he's 6 foot something, tall, good shape. He's a good kid. I like Claudio. I have absolutely no idea. Well, I'm telling you, that kid will give you a star. There's a couple kids in OVW right now, Pat Buck and JD. Fantastic gimmick. They look like stars. They're good in the ring. Those guys should get a shot. even though he drives me nuts, Idol Stevens, Aaron the Idol Stevens. Aaron the Idol Stevens is 6'4", 260 pounds. Been wrestling since he was like 16 years old. He's a 10-year veteran of the business. He's 27 years old. He's down in Puerto Rico now. This guy was in developmental for 4.5 years. They threw him together with some wingnut named Casey James. Nice enough guy, but a goof. He used to drive me. He was the number one guy who used to drive me nuts when I was the head developmental assistant trying to be this guy's boss.